Welcome back to The Explainer. Look, I'm absolutely thrilled you're here today because we're going to dismantle a deeply ingrained societal myth. From the time we're literally kids, we're taught this super simple equation: just be good and you'll be safe, right? But what if that's completely backwards? Today, we're analyzing some fascinating source material that takes the historical wisdom of Niccolo Machiavelli and applies it to modern human behavior. And honestly, it reveals a pretty shocking premise. Your kindness might actually be your absolute greatest weakness.
Let me ask you this directly. Do you genuinely believe that your kindness protects you? Do you think your generosity automatically guarantees loyalty and respect from people? Well, the material we're exploring today challenges that exact assumption. It introduces this brutal truth that unmanaged, blind goodness is kind of like a fire. If you don't control it, it just burns right through your energy, your boundaries, and literally everything you've built.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. We're going to look at the danger of blind goodness, explore the psychology of the generosity trap, examine the economics of power, uncover the strategy of virtue, and finally, look at why results always trump intentions. All right, starting with section 1, the danger of blind goodness. Why sheep get eaten. The foundational argument here is that being consistently, unfailingly kind actually just signals predictability. You end up becoming the office doormat who gets passed over for a promotion mainly because you look more like a servant than a leader. Machiavelli hits the nail on the head with this concept. You simply cannot survive as a sheep in a world full of wolves. If you're entirely pure and totally predictable, you basically lack the teeth to protect your own boundaries. People figure out pretty quickly that they can push you around because, well, you're just too nice to fight back. Your goodness is basically a giant neon sign telling the world you can be easily exploited without any consequences. Let's move right along to section 2, the generosity trap, the psychology of exploitation. You know, you'd logically think that the more you give to people, the more they'd appreciate it. Makes sense, right? But reality shows the exact opposite, and it's all thanks to hedonic adaptation. This is our very human tendency to get used to good things incredibly quickly. It's like bringing donuts to the office. The first time you are an absolute hero, but by week 3, people are actually annoyed you didn't bring the jelly-filled ones. When you continuously offer your help, your exceptional kindness just loses its power. It eventually becomes completely invisible. People literally stop noticing your sacrifices because they just become the new expected baseline. Your generosity just turns into the way things are. This really brilliantly illustrates what we can call the illusion of gratitude. Think about it. Step 1, you help someone once and they are incredibly grateful. Step 2, you help them a few more times. They're thankful, sure, but they're kind of starting to expect it. Then, step 3, you help them 10 times and suddenly they feel totally entitled to your help. Your continuous giving doesn't actually build loyalty at all. It breeds dependency. People become almost addicted to your giving. And like anyone dependent on something, they get incredibly angry if their supply is suddenly cut off. So the absolute crucial point here is this stark mathematical reality of human memory, 10 to 1. If you help someone 10 times and then say no just once, they are not going to remember those 10 times you said yes. No way. They will forever fixate on the one single time you said no. Suddenly, you're the bad guy. You're the selfish one. And this is exactly how blind generosity traps you in a brutal cycle of obligation and resentment. And that brings us perfectly to section 3, the economics of power, guarding your resources. This shifts our focus directly back to your own resource management. Because your time and your energy, they are completely finite. Think about the safety instructions on an airplane. They always tell you to put your own oxygen mask on first before assisting others. And why is that? Because if you pass out trying to help someone else, well, now 2 people need rescuing. Life works exactly the same way. If you completely exhaust yourself saying yes to every single favor, you eventually just drain your own strength. You abandon your own goals, and ironically, you become a burden to others instead of an asset. This quote from Machiavelli anchors the concept beautifully. You absolutely cannot help, influence, or lead others if you cannot command your own time and energy first. Saying yes to everyone else inherently means saying no to yourself. Smart, sustainable leadership requires you to guard your resources super carefully so you actually have the strength to be of use when it truly, really counts. Let's jump into section 4, the strategy of virtue, being a fox and a lion. Now we pivot to the solution side of things. The goal here isn't to become evil or heartless, not at all. It's to use virtues like mercy, honesty, and generosity as precise strategic tools,
rather than just handing them out blindly to anyone. Machiavelli understood what we can call the mask of virtue. Society judges your image, not your heart. So to maintain respect, you've got to maintain appearances while keeping firm control beneath the surface. You show your soft side when it actually serves a purpose, but you keep the dagger of your boundaries concealed, ready to show steel only when it's absolutely necessary. It's all about timing and control, to actually do good.
I really want to slow down for a second here because this is a hard, undeniable truth. Scarcity creates value. If you are always available, your help basically becomes worthless. By making your availability and your help conditional, you actually increase its value. Think about it. When you are selective, your help is respected, it's remembered, and it's so much more impactful. So how do we actually apply this day to day? Well, the source material recommends 3 highly actionable questions to ask yourself before you agree to any request. 1, does this align with my goals? 2, can I do this without completely depleting myself? And 3, will this person genuinely appreciate and respect what I'm doing? If the answer to any of those is no, you decline kindly but firmly. When you do say yes, you commit fully, ensuring your generosity creates real impact rather than just breeding entitlement. Finally, we reach Section 5, Results over Intentions, Outcomes versus Motives. At the end of the day, the world judges the outcomes you produce, not the purity of your motives. History doesn't really remember people who merely meant well, right? It remembers people who got things done. And this reveals a critical distinction between being nice and being good. Nice people avoid conflict, good people resolve it. Nice people tell you what you want to hear, good people tell you what you desperately need to hear. A boss setting incredibly high standards isn't being cruel, they're building a stronger team. Real goodness sometimes means looking temporarily bad to create a lasting positive outcome. The world is literally full of nice people who accomplish nothing. What we really need are good people who actually get results. This might be Machiavelli's most famous quote, and in this context, it clarifies a huge point. Respect and impact matter far, far more than affection. Think of massive visionaries like Steve Jobs or impactful leaders who just had to be tough to push their missions forward. They weren't always perceived as nice, but man, their impact was undeniable. You simply cannot leave a legacy if you don't survive first. And survival requires setting boundaries and prioritizing strength, because only from a true position of strength can you afford to be genuinely good. To summarize the core thesis of this explainer, goodness without strategy will completely drain your resources and leave you super vulnerable to exploitation. But goodness with strategy, that becomes an incredibly powerful weapon of influence. It's time to stop being a blind sheep just hoping the wolves will play nice. You've got to become a strategic shepherd who actually has the wisdom and the teeth to protect the flock. I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. You now know the mechanics of gratitude, the absolute danger of overgiving, and why boundaries are absolutely necessary. The choice is entirely yours moving forward. Will you let your goodness weaken you, or will you master it and turn it into true power? Thanks for joining me on The Explainer, and I'll catch you next time.